On September 24th, 1972, the Golden West Sport Aviation Air Show was in full swing at Sacramento Executive Airport in Sacramento, California. Thousands of spectators' families with children, aviation enthusiasts, and curious locals crowded the flight line to watch daring aerobatic performances. Among the performers was 43-year-old Richard Bingham, flying a modified P-51 Mustang fighter plane from World War II. As Bingham began his aerobatic routine, something went catastrophically wrong. The Mustang suddenly lost altitude, pitched nose down, and crashed directly into the crowd at over 200 miles per hour. The plane plowed through spectators, then slammed into an ice cream parlor where children were celebrating a birthday party. When it was over, 22 people were dead, including 12 children. More than 60 others were seriously injured. This is the story of the 1972 Sacramento Air Show disaster, one of the deadliest air show accidents in American history. The Air Show. The Golden West Sport Aviation Air Show was an annual event held at Sacramento Executive Airport. Like many air shows of the era, it featured vintage military aircraft, aerobatic performances, and static displays. Air shows were extremely popular in the 1970s, drawing large crowds eager to see historic warbirds and daring flying demonstrations. September 24th, 1972, was a beautiful Sunday afternoon, perfect weather for an air show. The crowd was estimated at 15,000, 20,000 people. Families spread blankets on the grass along the flight line. Children ran around excitedly. The atmosphere was festive and relaxed. At the edge of the airport property, just beyond the fence, was Farrell's ice cream parlor. Yes, the same chain we discussed earlier. Inside, families were enjoying ice cream, and a children's birthday party was in progress. Richard Bingham and the P-51 Mustang. Richard Bingham was an experienced pilot and air show performer. He was flying a highly modified P-51 Mustang, a legendary World War II fighter plane. The P-51 was one of the most successful fighter aircraft of World War II, known for its speed, range, and combat effectiveness. Bingham's Mustang had been heavily modified for air racing with a more powerful engine and other performance modifications. These modifications made it faster, but also less stable and more difficult to handle than a stock P-51. Bingham was performing an aerobatic routine for the crowd, loops, rolls, and other maneuvers designed to showcase the plane's capabilities and thrill the spectators. The crash. As Bingham performed his routine, something went wrong. Witnesses reported the Mustang suddenly seemed to lose power or control. The aircraft pitched nose down and began descending rapidly toward the crowd. Bingham ejected from the aircraft just seconds before impact, but by then the plane was already on a collision course with the spectators. The P-51 Mustang, traveling at over 200 miles per hour, crashed directly into the densely packed crowd along the flight line. The plane's momentum carried it through the spectators and across the airport boundary fence. The out-of-control Mustang then slammed into Farrell's ice cream parlor, where children were celebrating a birthday party. The plane exploded on impact, engulfing the building in flames. The death toll. 22 people were killed. 12 children, many of them at the birthday party in Farrell's. 10 adults, including spectators of the air show. More than 60 people were seriously injured, many with severe burns from the fire that engulfed Farrell's. The scene was one of absolute horror bodies scattered across the flight line. The ice cream parlor in flames. Parents searching frantically for their children, and the screams of the injured. Richard Bingham, who had ejected from the plane, survived with minor injuries. He parachuted to the ground and watched as the plane he'd been flying killed 22 people. The investigation. The National Transportation Safety Board, NTSB, conducted an extensive investigation. Their findings. Cause of the crash. The P-51's engine experienced a mechanical failure during the aerobatic maneuver. Specifically, an improperly installed fuel valve caused fuel starvation to the engine, resulting in loss of power at a critical moment when the plane was in a nose-down attitude close to the ground. Contributing factors. The aircraft had been heavily modified, making it less stable. Bingham was performing at low altitude with insufficient margin for error. The crowd line was too close to the active flight line. Spectators were in danger if anything went wrong. No barriers separated spectators from the aircraft operating area. Pilot error. While the mechanical failure initiated the emergency, questions were raised about whether Bingham could have directed the dying aircraft away from the crowd. He claimed he had no control, but some experts suggested he prioritized his own survival, ejecting over attempting to steer the plane away from spectators. The aftermath. Richard Bingham faced intense scrutiny and legal consequences. He was sued by victims' families in multiple civil lawsuits. The emotional and legal toll on Bingham was severe, though he maintained the crash was caused by mechanical failure beyond his control. The tragedy led to significant changes in airshow safety regulations. Crowd line regulations. Minimum distances between spectators and performing aircraft were established. Spectators could no longer be positioned directly beneath aerobatic maneuvers. Aircraft inspections. More rigorous inspections and maintenance requirements for airshow aircraft, particularly modified vintage planes. Pilot qualifications. Stricter standards for airshow performers with emphasis on safety margins and emergency procedures. Performance restrictions. Limitations on low-altitude maneuvers over or near spectator areas. These changes have made airshows significantly safer. While airshow accidents still occur, the death toll at the 1972 Sacramento disaster remains one of the worst in history. The victims. 22 people went to an air show or an ice cream parlor on a beautiful Sunday afternoon and never came home. 12 were children, many celebrating a birthday party at Farrell's. Their deaths were sudden, violent, and completely unexpected. For the survivors and families, the trauma was profound and lasting. Parents who lost children, children who lost parents, and those who witnessed the horror carried psychological scars for life. The legacy. The 1972 Sacramento Air Show disaster is remembered as one of the darkest days in air show history. It serves as a permanent reminder that air shows, while exciting and entertaining, involve inherently dangerous activities that require the highest standards of safety. The changes implemented after Sacramento have undoubtedly saved lives at subsequent air shows. Modern air shows have much greater safety margins, better inspections, and more conservative performance standards. But for the 22 people who died on September 24, 1972, those changes came too late. Conclusion. On September the 24th, 1972, a modified P-51 Mustang crashed into a crowd at the Sacramento Air Show, then plowed into Farrell's ice cream parlor, where children were celebrating a birthday. 22 people died, 12 of them children. More than 60 were injured. The crash was caused by a mechanical failure, but it exposed serious deficiencies in air show's safety crowd lines. Too close, insufficient inspections, inadequate safety margins. The tragedy changed air show regulations forever, making them safer for spectators. But it came at a terrible cost, 22 lives, including 12 children who were simply enjoying ice cream on a Sunday afternoon. Rest in peace to the 22 victims of the Sacramento Air Show disaster. Your deaths were not in vain. The safety improvements made after that terrible day have protected countless others. But you should never have died. The plane should never have been able to reach the crowd. The ice cream parlor should never have been in the path of a crashing aircraft. September 24th, 1972, was a beautiful day that turned into a nightmare. May we never forget.